You've got, what, about 18 odd investments in India at this point in time, a couple of unicorns as well. What is the data telling you? What are the bets that you're likely to make? And I believe a new fund as well on the anvil?
That's right. Well, we launched Rocketship Fund 3, I think a few months ago. In terms of India, we continue to be super bullish and excited about India. Every big space and country goes through a little bit of ups and downs. India as a country is doing incredibly well. The Indian economy is on a road. It's one of the few bright spots in the world right now. The Indian technology space is exciting as well. There's a little bit of consolidation that's happening in the space, which happens periodically, and it's healthy for the ecosystem. But at the same time, I'm really, really bullish about Indian entrepreneurs who can adopt AI and use it to digitally transform huge swaths of Indian industry, and we are looking for companies like that all the time, right?
So which are the spaces that you think that this has the potential to have that kind of transformative impact?
So finance is obviously one, and we had the first generation of Fintechs in India. I think we can have a second generation that's more AI driven, more technology driven. That can be super interesting. Food is another. I just mentioned about the food tech company. Agriculture is, I think, is a space that I think can really be transformed by the adoption of AI, and education, which has traditionally been a good a great vertical in India. I think that we will see the next generation of companies in that space.
When we were last speaking in 2016, you were talking about irrational exuberance and what that had done to valuations and how easy money had kept zombie companies afloat. Are you now starting to see, are we in the middle of the correction? Are we heading towards the end of the correction? How do you see things?
No, I think we're very much in the middle of the correction right now. I think basically what happened is a lot of companies, when the easy money was around, raised large amounts of funding. So the companies that did not raise large amounts of funding went out of business quickly. The companies that raised large amounts of funding have long runways. And so they have not gone out of business. They may have done some layoffs, but they still have really long runways. But there are still many companies among those whose business has not really taken off, even though they have long runways and they've raised large amounts of capital. And this is true in the US and it's true in India, right? It's true everywhere. So we have a bunch of companies that have a lot of capital but are in no danger of going out of business right now because they really have a long runways, and these are the zombie companies that we spoke about last time. Well, we have the zombies back again now that are hanging around, and I think it'll take a couple of years for those zombies to get washed out.
What we saw happen was also that people were willing to put a lot of money behind what was quote-unquote a concept without necessarily having a strong business model in play. And now the expectation is, where is the business model? Where is profitability? I mean, this, even on the investor part, the pendulum swings, doesn't it?
It always does, and it always overcorrects. I think I worry that we might also overcorrect and go too far in the other extreme, because when you have a startup, you very often you have to bet on a dream. Right? And if you sort of impose a business model and profitability constraints right at the beginning, you're going to miss many exciting companies just because they don't have that. I mean, very often there is a startups very often have this J-curve phenomenon where they lose money initially for a lot of time, and then they have hockey stick up. That's so if you sort of focus too far on the right hand side and say right from day one you have to be a profitable company, you're going to miss companies with a steeper J-curve, which ultimately might end up being the more important and transformative companies.
How are you reading what's happening as far as the legacy tech companies are concerned? As one of the initial investors into companies like Facebook, etc., how do you read what's going on at a company like Meta, what's now happening at Twitter with Musk coming in, what's happening with AI and Google? Where do you see the incumbents over the next few years?
I think to be honest, this is a great time to be an incumbent. because of the because of AI and the new developments around AI. It was a bad time for incumbents for the last couple of years because there was a lot of regulation coming at them. There was a lot of regulatory pressure on them, which will continue to be the case. There is a lot of regulatory pressure on there will be a lot of regulatory pressure on incumbents going forward. But the emergence of large language models and the adoption of those and the more importance of those is going to be actually beneficial to incumbents because, as I said, developing these models and being a player in that space requires a lot of capital. And one thing that incumbents have is a lot of capital and a lot of expertise, right? So because of that, it's going to lock in the advantages of incumbents to some extent over the next few years. There have been hearings in Congress with Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, going and testifying, saying maybe the government should regulate AI. Now, that's an interesting thing to think about. Clearly, you need to some safeguards like provide, weapon systems and so on that you don't want AI to be able to access. But at the same time, regulating too early always has the danger of benefiting the incumbents more because regulation always favors incumbents because regulation imposes costs.
So you think that's what this whole business of writing letters or to Congress saying that come in and regulate, you think this is a way of self-protection?
Absolutely. I mean, so think about it, right? I mean, there is this old, parable that says, who benefits, from prohibition? The people who, benefit most from prohibition are the bootleggers at some level, right? So it's because their business kind of goes up. So at some level, whenever there is regulation, the government is going to turn to these incumbents to help write the rules, and they're going to solidify their own position by writing rules that are favorable to themselves and erecting barriers to prevent new entrants from coming in. Right? Regulation always favors incumbents because the agencies that are there's this phenomenon called regulatory capture, where
Do you fear that we're likely to see regulatory capture specifically when it comes to AI? Because in fact, there was an interesting piece out saying, look, keep the tech CEOs away from regulation, and this notion or narrative that is being generated or created is that governments don't understand AI, don't understand the technology, and so it's best to leave the regulation with the experts, i.e. the tech companies themselves.
Yeah, no, I worry about that, and I think the reason for that is exactly this. You don't want the incumbents writing the rules because then the rules are going to favor the incumbents. Now, I think the incumbents already have a lot of natural advantages in this space. You don't want to erect further barriers to prevent startups from entering the space and playing in the space. So my personal belief is that the government should regulate new technologies like AI with a very light hand. Maybe put very general limits like don't access weapon systems, things of this nature, right? But let it evolve, right, and let it play out. And for a country like India as well, I think it'll be in India's interest, for example, if there is less regulation around AI in the US. Or anywhere in the world, right? Because regulation regulation of AI will lead to exports bans and things of this nature, which you don't want at this stage for a country like India to take advantage of this technology.
Anand, so let me end then by asking you, the thing that excites you most about India as well as the US and this US-India startup corridor that has, of course, now been in operation for a few years now, and this partnership that hopefully will deepen, especially in emerging and critical technologies on the back of both governments coming together. What excites you the most?
What excites me the most is India's deep entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm seeing these amazing entrepreneurs in India. When I visit India, I talk to the entrepreneurs. It's great to see their ambition. It's great to see the depth of talent and how that has changed over the last 10 years. The US India partnership is amazing for that because we have a great Indian diaspora here in Silicon Valley and all over the US who are ready to invest in India and who are ready to help take Indian companies who develop very interesting technologies and help them market those technologies in the US as well. Because while India is a great place to develop, sometimes the bigger markets are sometimes in the US.
How many of your portfolio companies have made that leap from servicing India to now servicing the global markets? How many are on the cusp of being able to do that?
No, it's actually a very difficult transition to make. A couple of our companies have made that transition. For example, this company that I told you that is in the AI meat food space, they started in India, in Bombay, and now they moved to the US, right? So I think that transition has to happen as well to address larger market opportunities. So I think there are big market opportunities within India that you can address by just being in India, right? Things in e-commerce, for example, or in agriculture. There are many interesting opportunities where you can, or supply chain, where you can be in India and build a big company. But if you're building a company that is selling to enterprises, then the bigger opportunities are in the US.
Well, Anand, it's always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here once again on Young Turks. We wish you very best of luck with Rocketship and, of course, with the San Francisco Unicorns. And we look forward to being able to speak with you again soon.
Thank you, Shereen. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, that's it then on this special edition of Young Turks. From all of us here on the team, we will continue to bring you more stories from Silicon Valley. Till then, goodbye and thanks for watching.